The underdogs. The Andromeda spaceport gleamed like a diamond against the backdrop of countless stars, its crystalline docking bays filled with the galaxy's most advanced starships. Today marked the 573rd Annual Galactic Grand Prix, the most prestigious racing event in the known universe. Species from 1,000 worlds had gathered, each displaying technological marvels that defied imagination. Quantum vessels that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, bioorganic ships that adapted to space conditions like living organisms, telepathically controlled crafts that responded to thought before it became intention. And then there was the human ship, the Rust Bucket, as Captain Alina Reyes affectionately called it, lumbered toward its assigned docking bay, venting steam from exposed pipes and trailing a thin cloud of what looked suspiciously like exhaust. Its hull, a patchwork of mismatched metals and polymers, bore the scars of countless repairs. To the gathered aliens, it looked as if it might disintegrate at any moment. "By the 5 moons of Xerxes," muttered Ambassador K-Vex of the Vosk Imperium, his scaled skin rippling with amusement. "Is that what humans call a starship? It resembles one of their primitive submarines, only more decrepit." His entourage of fellow reptilians chuckled, their laughter carrying across the spaceport's central promenade. Alina Reyes, a compact woman with short-cropped black hair streaked with silver, heard the laughter as she supervised her ship's docking procedures. Her weathered face remained impassive, but her dark eyes flashed with a mixture of annoyance and determination. At 45, she had spent more than half her life in space, navigating the political complexities of a galaxy that viewed humanity as quaint newcomers at best and dangerous upstarts at worst. "They're laughing again, Captain," observed Nikolai, her young engineer, his face smudged with engine grease. "Let them laugh," Alina responded, patting the ship's exterior with affection. "They always do, right before we surprise them." The Rust Bucket's crew disembarked, just 5 humans, a stark contrast to the dozens that typically operated the alien vessels. Besides Alina and Nikolai, there was Dr. Maya Chen, the ship's scientist and navigation specialist, Marcus Williams, the tactical officer and co-pilot, and Zoe Jackson, their systems expert and resident hacker. Each wore the simple blue jumpsuit that identified Earth's stellar racing coalition, unadorned except for their names and the Earth emblem, a stylized globe with a single orbiting satellite. Registration for the Grand Prix took place in the vast celestial dome, where representatives from over 500 worlds mingled. The air was filled with a babble of languages, translated in real time by the dome's sophisticated systems. At the central registration station, Alina presented her credentials to the race administrator, a quantum with shimmering, translucent skin. "Humans," the administrator remarked, her voice melodious, but tinged with skepticism. "This is your species' first participation in the Grand Prix, is it not?" "First official participation," Alina corrected with a slight smile. "We've been observing for decades." "Observing is not participating, Captain Reyes. The Grand Prix requires more than mere enthusiasm. Are you sure your vessel meets the minimum safety requirements?" Before Alina could respond, a commanding voice interrupted from behind. "They won't survive the first hyperspace jump, Administrator. Why waste a starting position on them?" Alina turned to face Supreme Commander Azarin of the Latari Collective, the reigning champion for the past 3 Grand Prix events. Tall and willowy, with luminescent skin and eyes that seemed to contain galaxies, Azarin exuded the confidence of a being whose technology was millennia ahead of humanity's. "Our ship has passed all safety inspections, Commander," Alina replied evenly. "And the last I checked, innovation wasn't exclusive to species with pointed ears." Azarin's expression hardened. Primitive technology paired with primitive manners. How fitting. He turned to the administrator. "The qualifying rounds will eliminate them anyway. Let them have their moment of delusion." The qualifying rounds were held in the vast emptiness of the Andromeda system's outer reaches. Each ship had to navigate a complex series of challenges designed to test speed, maneuverability, and adaptive response. The Rust Bucket was scheduled last, after all the advanced vessels had completed the course with impressive times. In the observation lounge, Alina and her crew watched as the Latari ship, Cosmic Whisper, completed the course in what seemed like an impossible time, its quantum drive allowing it to predict and navigate obstacles before they fully materialized. They're using probability matrices to plot their course, Maya observed, her eyes tracking the ship's movements. Their ship isn't just moving through space, it's calculating thousands of potential space-time configurations simultaneously. Can we counter that? Alina asked. Maya shook her head. Not with our technology. But she glanced at Nikolai with a knowing smile. But we've got something they don't, Nikolai finished, patting a small device attached to his wrist. Call it human intuition, enhanced. When the Rust Bucket's turn came, expectation in the observation lounge had turned to morbid curiosity. Most alien spectators were simply waiting to see how spectacularly the humans would fail. The starting signal flashed, and the Rust Bucket shot forward with surprising acceleration. Instead of the smooth, calculated path taken by the other ships, it moved erratically, almost recklessly, through the obstacle field. "What are they doing?" murmured Kavex, leaning forward. "Their pattern makes no sense." But as the Rust Bucket progressed through the course, a strange pattern emerged. While other ships had navigated with perfect precision, the human vessel seemed to be improvising, adapting its approach based on real-time conditions rather than pre-calculated paths. "They're using predictive analysis," Maya explained to her crewmates as they monitored the ship's automated systems from within. "But not the way the others do. We're analyzing the course itself, looking for shortcuts and anomalies." The course contained a gravitational anomaly, meant to force ships into a long detour. Most competitors detected it early and plotted safe courses around it. The Rust Bucket, however, headed straight for it. "Are they insane?" gasped a Moravian observer. "That's a Class 3 gravity well. It will tear their primitive hull apart." But as the Rust Bucket approached the anomaly, it suddenly rotated, presenting its underside to the gravitational force. Hidden panels opened, revealing a series of what appeared to be modified deflector dishes. The gravity well's energy was captured, redirected, and suddenly, improbably, the Rust Bucket was using the anomaly as a slingshot, cutting nearly 30 seconds off its time. When the qualification rounds ended, the Rust Bucket had secured the last qualifying position, barely enough to enter the race, but far more than anyone had expected. Back at the docking bay, the human crew was met with a mixture of bewilderment and newfound interest from the alien competitors. "Unconventional tactics," Commander Azarin commented as he approached Alina. "Clever, but ultimately futile. The actual race contains challenges that no amount of jury-rigging can overcome." Alina shrugged. "We'll see about that. Sometimes the oldest solutions work best for the newest problems." As Azarin walked away, Nikolai turned to Alina. "He's right about one thing, Captain. The race course is far more demanding than the qualifiers. Are you sure our modifications will hold?" Alina looked at her ship, at the patches and improvised systems that the galaxy's elite racers found so amusing. "They don't understand what they're looking at, Nikolai. They see outdated technology. What they don't see is how we've adapted it, improved it in ways they'd never consider because they've never had to." She placed her hand on the ship's hull, feeling the gentle vibration of its systems. "The Rust Bucket isn't just a ship. It's a statement. And tomorrow, we're going to make sure the entire galaxy hears it." As night fell on the Andromeda spaceport, most crews were making final, meticulous adjustments to their vessels. The human crew, however, was engaged in a more unorthodox preparation. Beneath the ship, hidden from prying eyes, they were installing what appeared to be a collection of mismatched devices scavenged from Earth's technological past. "Is that a vacuum tube array?" Maya asked incredulously, as Nikolai connected a series of antique-looking components. Analog technology, Nikolai confirmed with a grin. Immune to quantum interference and telepathic disruption. Sometimes, the old ways are the best defense against new tricks. Elena watched her crew work, a small smile playing on her lips. Tomorrow, the galaxy would learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't technological advancement, but the ability to adapt, to improvise, and to see possibilities where others saw only limitations. As the artificial night cycle deepened, an alarm suddenly blared from within the ship. Zoe's voice came over the comm system, urgent and concerned. "Captain, we've got a problem. Someone's trying to access our navigation systems remotely." Elena's smile vanished. "Seal all access points. Full communication blackout." She turned to Marcus. "Looks like someone's already playing dirty." "Who do you think it is?" Marcus asked, his hand instinctively moving to where a weapon would be if they were allowed to carry them in the spaceport. "Could be anyone," Elena replied, her gaze sweeping across the docking bay where dozens of alien ships loomed in the darkness. "But it doesn't matter. Tomorrow we race, and we'll show them exactly what humans are capable of." The eve of the Galactic Grand Prix found the human crew working through the night, not just countering the attempted sabotage, but making last-minute adjustments to their unorthodox vessel. In the shadow of the galaxy's most advanced ships, the rust bucket gleamed with a determined defiance, ready to challenge the stars themselves. Against all odds. Race day dawned with the artificial sunlight of Andromeda Spaceport gradually illuminating the vast expanse of the starting area. Thousands of spectators from across the galaxy had gathered in observation vessels positioned along the racecourse, which stretched across 3 star systems and included some of the most treacherous space phenomena known to sentient life. Elena Reyes completed her pre-flight checks with methodical precision, her mind focused despite the growing tension. The attempted intrusion into their systems the previous night had been sophisticated, bearing the hallmarks of Latari technology. They had countered it, but the message was clear. The other competitors weren't just dismissive of humanity's chances, they were actively concerned enough to try to eliminate them before the race began. "All systems operational," Captain, reported Maya from her station. "Though I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from several competing vessels, I think they've made some last-minute modifications." "So have we," Elena replied with a grim smile, patting the console affectionately. The race administrator's holographic image appeared simultaneously in all competing vessels. "Competitors, the 573rd Annual Galactic Grand Prix will commence in precisely 10 minutes. The course has been transmitted to your navigation systems. As always, direct interference with competing vessels is prohibited, but all defensive and evasive technologies are permitted. May the most advanced civilization triumph." The communication ended, and Elena turned to her crew. "They still think this is about technological superiority." She shook her head. "Let's show them what humanity brings to the table." The starting signal came as a pulse of energy that momentarily disrupted all systems, a deliberate challenge requiring each ship to recover quickly and efficiently. The rust bucket systems flickered, then stabilized faster than most expected, allowing Elena to guide it smoothly into the formation as the 20 qualifying vessels accelerated toward the first challenge, the Scylla asteroid field. Unlike normal asteroid fields, Scylla was in constant flux, its components moving in patterns influenced by competing gravitational forces from 3 nearby stars. Navigating it required either incredibly advanced predictive algorithms or remarkable piloting skill. The Latari ship, Cosmic Whisper, seemed to glide through the asteroids as if they weren't there, its probability drive allowing it to occupy the spaces between possible asteroid positions. The Vosk vessel, War Scythe, simply blasted smaller asteroids out of its path with powerful disruptor beams. The rust bucket took a different approach. Instead of trying to predict or destroy the asteroids, Elena piloted manually, responding to the field's chaotic movements with almost intuitive adjustments. The ship weaved and rolled, occasionally scraping against smaller rocks, but maintaining its momentum. Their pilot has remarkable reflexes, observed K-Vex from the Voss command vessel, watching the race feeds. Almost as if they're anticipating the asteroid movements, finished his science officer. But their sensors aren't sophisticated enough for that level of prediction. In reality, Maya had reconfigured their sensors to detect subtle gravitational fluctuations, giving Elena a fraction of a second's additional warning, just enough for her experienced hands to react. As the ships emerged from the asteroid field, the rust bucket had maintained its qualifying position, neither gaining nor losing ground. The next challenge, however, would prove far more demanding. The Charybdis Nebula, a vast cloud of superheated plasma and electromagnetic disruption. Shields to maximum, Elena ordered as they approached the nebula's edge. Nikolai, initiate the Faraday Protocol. Faraday Protocol active, Nikolai confirmed, activating the system of vacuum tubes and analog circuitry they had installed the night before. The nebula engulfed the racing ships in a sea of searing energy. Most vessels relied on quantum shields or probability fields to navigate the plasma safely. The rust bucket, with its seemingly primitive technology, should have been at a severe disadvantage. But as electromagnetic pulses surged through the nebula, disrupting the advanced systems of many competitors, the rust bucket continued on its course, protected by technology so old it was immune to such interference. "They're using analog systems," exclaimed a Moravian observer, incredulity evident in their voice. "Technology obsolete for a millennium." The cosmic whisper, momentarily disrupted by a particularly intense pulse, found itself briefly alongside the rust bucket in the heart of the nebula. "Impossible," muttered Commander Azarin, his perfect features contorted with frustration. He opened a direct communication channel to the human ship. "What trickery is this, human? Your vessel should be crippled by these conditions." Elena's face appeared on his screen, sweat-streaked but triumphant. "Not trickery, Commander. Just good old human ingenuity. Sometimes the best way forward is to take a step back." Before Azarin could respond, his ship's systems recovered, and the cosmic whisper shot forward once more, leaving the rust bucket behind. But the humans had made their point, and gained several positions in the process as other ships struggled with the nebula's disruptive effects. Emerging from Charybdis, the race entered its second phase, a series of precision jumps through artificially generated wormholes, each positioned to test a ship's navigation and timing capabilities. Here, the advanced vessels regained their advantage. The Latari ship, with its quantum consciousness, could calculate jump trajectories with picosecond precision. The Voss scythe utilized a biological navigator, a creature genetically engineered to perceive higher dimensions. The rust bucket, relying on conventional warp drive technology, began to lose ground. By the third jump, it had dropped back to 15th position. "We're falling behind," Marcus reported tensely. "The warp drive can't recharge fast enough between jumps." Elena's expression remained calm. "We expected this. Time for the boost, Nikolai." Nikolai hesitated, his hand hovering over a makeshift control panel. "Captain, we haven't tested it under race conditions. If the calibration is off, we don't have a choice. Now, Nikolai." With a reluctant nod, Nikolai activated a system that no other ship in the race possessed, a modified cold fusion reactor, combining humanity's most advanced energy technology with elements scavenged from a dozen alien technologies. The result was unstable but powerful, a burst of energy that supercharged the rust bucket's warp drive for a crucial 30 seconds. The human ship suddenly accelerated at an impossible rate, overtaking several competitors and closing the gap with the leaders. But as they approached the final wormhole jump of the sequence, the modified reactor began to destabilize. "Containment field fluctuating," Maya reported, her voice tense. "We've got maybe 20 seconds before critical failure." Elena's hands flew over the controls, adjusting their trajectory. "Divert all power to the forward shields and prepare for emergency shutdown on my mark." The rust bucket hurled toward the wormhole at a speed far beyond its design specifications, its hull groaning under the strain. 3, 2, 1, mark, Elena shouted. Nikolai slammed the emergency shutdown control just as the ship entered the wormhole. For a terrifying moment, the rust bucket seemed to stretch and distort, caught between normal space and the higher dimensions of the wormhole. Then, with a violent shudder, it was ejected into normal space on the other side. Systems failing, hull breached in multiple sections, but miraculously intact. Containment restored, Maya announced, relief evident in her voice. But we've sustained heavy damage. Life support is compromised in sections 3 through 5. Elena quickly assessed their situation. The burst of speed had propelled them to an unexpected 7th place, but the cost had been severe. Half their systems were offline, including their main propulsion. Switch to backup thrusters, she ordered. Reroute all non-essential power to life support and navigation. As the crew scrambled to stabilize their damaged vessel, race officials and spectators watched in astonishment. The human ship, by all rights, should have been destroyed by such a reckless maneuver. Their hull integrity shouldn't have withstood that transition. K-Vex remarked to his science officer, "What is their exterior plating made of?" The science officer analyzed the readings, confusion evident on his reptilian features. "It appears to be conventional titanium alloy, but with an unusual molecular structure. They'd somehow realigned the atomic lattice to distribute stress more efficiently." In truth, the rust bucket's hull had been treated with a process developed for Earth's deep-sea exploration vessels, modified by Nikolai to function in the vacuum of space. It was another example of humanity's knack for adaptation, taking existing technology and repurposing it for conditions it was never designed to endure. With the ship limping along on backup thrusters, Elena gazed at the vast interstellar expanse ahead, where the final and most dangerous phase of the race awaited. The leaders were already disappearing into the distance, with Commander Azarin's cosmic whisper at the forefront. "Can we complete the race?" Marcus asked quietly, voicing the question on everyone's mind. Elena's expression hardened with determination. "We didn't come this far to give up, Marcus. Nikolai, how long until you can get main propulsion back online?" Nikolai emerged from an access hatch, his face streaked with coolant fluid. "The main drive is completely fried, Captain." "But," he hesitated, a gleam in his eye, "I might have another solution. It's experimental, something I've been working on in my spare time." "How experimental?" Elena asked warily. "It involves repurposing our remaining cold fusion cells to create a controlled quantum fluctuation. Essentially a bubble of accelerated spacetime around the ship." Maya looked up sharply. "That's theoretical technology, Nikolai. No one has successfully created a stable quantum bubble." "No one with advanced quantum technology," Nikolai corrected. "But we're not trying to control quantum states with precision. We're creating a brute force effect. Messy, temporary, but potentially very fast." Elena considered the proposal, weighing the risks against their current situation. The rust bucket had already survived one near-catastrophic system failure. Attempting another experimental technology push could destroy the ship and kill them all. But in that moment, Elena Reyes made the decision that would come to define humanity's entry into galactic racing. "Do it, Nikolai. If we're going down pushing the limits of what's possible." As Nikolai began his makeshift modifications, the race continued ahead of them. The Cosmic Whisper maintained its lead, with the War Scythe close behind. The remaining competitors were spread across the course, each facing their own challenges as they pushed their advanced technologies to their limits. None of them noticed the damaged human vessel gradually accelerating behind them, surrounded by a faint, shimmering distortion as Nikolai's quantum bubble began to take effect. The final phase of the race lay ahead, a gauntlet through the heart of a dying star, where only the most advanced shielding and propulsion systems could ensure survival. Triumph of Ingenuity. The final phase of the Galactic Grand Prix was a spectacle of danger and beauty, a carefully controlled corridor through the corona of a dying star known as Prometheus. The star's magnetic field had been artificially modified to create a navigable path, but veering off course by even a few kilometers meant certain destruction in the stellar inferno. The lead ships, including Azarin's Cosmic Whisper and Kavex's War Scythe, approached Prometheus with supreme confidence. Their vessels, shielded by technologies developed over millennia, were well equipped to withstand the extreme conditions. Behind them, the remaining competitors formed a loose pack, each jockeying for position while maintaining a respectful distance from the others. Far behind, seemingly out of contention, the rust bucket was undergoing a remarkable transformation. Nikolai's quantum bubble, a crude but effective distortion of space-time, was expanding around the ship, causing it to appear blurred and indistinct to external observers. Quantum bubble stabilizing, Nikolai reported, his voice strained as he manually adjusted a series of controls that looked more like they belonged in an ancient Earth laboratory than a spaceship. We're reaching critical resonance. Inside the ship, the crew felt a strange sensation, as if reality itself was stretching around them while they remained perfectly still. Views through the viewport became distorted, stars streaking into lines of light. "What's happening?" Marcus asked, gripping his console as the ship shuddered. "We're not moving faster," Maya explained, watching her instruments with fascination. "Space itself is compressing in front of us and expanding behind us. It's like surfing a wave of distorted space-time." Elena kept her focus on navigating, which had become considerably more challenging with the distorted visual references. "How long can we maintain this, Nikolai?" "Minutes at most," he replied grimly. "The system is incredibly unstable. The bubble could collapse at any moment." But those minutes were enough. As the leading ships entered the Prometheus corridor, carefully navigating the superheated plasma with precision movements, the rust bucket came hurtling from behind, its quantum bubble compressing space to a fraction of its normal dimension. From the Cosmic Whisper's command center, Azarin was the first to notice the approaching human vessel. "Impossible," he breathed, watching as the rust bucket closed the gap at an incomprehensible rate. "They can't have developed quantum compression technology." In the observation vessels, spectators and officials alike stared in disbelief as the human ship, previously thought to be out of contention, suddenly reappeared as a serious competitor. "What we're witnessing is unprecedented," announced the official commentator, their voice thick with excitement. "The human vessel appears to be utilizing some form of spatial distortion technology that, according to our records, their species shouldn't possess for at least another 3 centuries. As the rust bucket entered the Prometheus corridor, moving from 15th position to 8th in a matter of moments, the quantum bubble began to interact with the star's powerful magnetic field. The result was spectacular and terrifying. A cascade of energy discharges that illuminated the human ship in a corona of multicolored lightning. "Bubble integrity failing," Nikolai warned, fighting to maintain control of his makeshift system. "The magnetic interference is too strong." Elena made a split-second decision. "Collapse the bubble, now. Use the energy discharge to boost our conventional drives." Nikolai's eyes widened at the audacity of the plan, but he immediately began the process of controlled collapse. As the quantum bubble disintegrated, he channeled the released energy into the rust bucket's backup propulsion systems. The result was an explosive acceleration that sent the ship surging forward, overtaking competitors in a blur of speed. The race through Prometheus's corona became a showcase of different approaches to an impossible challenge. The Latari ship navigated with clinical precision, its quantum consciousness calculating the optimal path through the plasma streams. The Vosk War Scythe simply powered through, its reinforced hull designed to withstand far worse conditions. The rust bucket, now operating on conventional technology enhanced by the residual energy of the collapsed quantum bubble, relied on Elena's piloting skills and the ship's unexpected durability. Where other pilots sought the safest path, Elena took calculated risks, skimming dangerously close to plasma eruptions to gain fractional advantages in speed and trajectory. By the time the ships emerged from the Prometheus corridor, the race had transformed into an unexpected three-way battle for first place: the Cosmic Whisper, the War Scythe, and, improbably, the Rust Bucket. The final stretch of the race was a straight run through open space to the finish line at Andromeda Spaceport. With no more obstacles to navigate, it became a pure test of speed and endurance. The Cosmic Whisper and War Scythe, recognizing the threat the human ship now posed, attempted a tactic unprecedented in Grand Prix history: an alliance. The two advanced vessels positioned themselves to flank the Rust Bucket, creating disruptive wake patterns in subspace that would normally force a less advanced ship to reduce speed or risk structural disintegration. "They're trying to box us in," Marcus observed, monitoring the tactical display. "If we maintain course and speed, the subspace turbulence will tear us apart." Elena smiled grimly. "Then we don't maintain course." She turned to Zoe. "Deploy the deflectors we installed last night." Zoe activated a series of small, innocuous-looking devices attached to the Rust Bucket's hull. These weren't the sophisticated deflector shields used by advanced civilizations, but something far more basic and far more surprising. "Are those mirrors?" Keyvex exclaimed incredulously, watching from his ship as reflective panels extended from the Rust Bucket's exterior. They were indeed mirrors, but with a critical modification. Their surfaces were coated with a metamaterial developed for Earth's quantum research facilities, capable of reflecting not just light, but certain forms of subspace radiation. The wake patterns created by the Cosmic Whisper and War Scythe were partially reflected back, disrupting their own carefully calibrated systems. Both alien vessels faltered momentarily, enough for the Rust Bucket to surge ahead. But the advantage was temporary. The Latari and Vosk ships quickly recovered and accelerated to maximum speed, drawing alongside the human vessel once more. "Final approach," Elena announced as Andromeda Spaceport came into view, the finish line a glowing band of energy stretching across space. "All power to propulsion, everything we've got left." The three ships streaked toward the finish line, separated by mere meters, their engines straining against the limits of their respective technologies. In the Cosmic Whisper, Commander Azarin activated systems that pushed his vessel's quantum drive beyond safety parameters. Aboard the War Scythe, Keyvex authorized the use of a restricted technology, a momentary time dilation field that would give his ship a fractional advantage. The Rust Bucket had no such advanced options left. Every experimental system had been used, every modification pushed to its limit. All that remained was the ship's conventional drive. And one final desperate gambit. "Initiate coolant purge," Elena ordered, her voice steady despite the strain evident on her face. "Captain, that will." Maya began to protest. "I know exactly what it will do. Execute the order." Nicolay's fingers flew over his console, overriding safety protocols. The Rust Bucket's cooling system, essential for preventing engine overload, began venting its contents into space through the ship's rear nozzles. The superheated coolant, expelled under enormous pressure, provided a brief but significant thrust boost, essentially turning the ship's maintenance system into an improvised rocket. The maneuver was as dangerous as it was brilliant. Without coolant, the Rust Bucket's engines would begin to overheat immediately, giving them perhaps 30 seconds before catastrophic failure. But 30 seconds was all they needed. In the final moments of the race, three ships converged on the finish line, the product of millennia of Latari evolution and technological development, the pinnacle of Vosk military engineering, and a human vessel held together by ingenuity, improvisation, and sheer determination. They crossed almost simultaneously, the energy field of the finish line rippling as it registered their passage. For a breathless moment, the entire spaceport fell silent, waiting for the official result. Then the announcement came. Winner of the 573rd Annual Galactic Grand Prix, the Earth vessel Rust Bucket, by a margin of 0.03 seconds. The silence transformed into a cacophony of shocked exclamations, cheers, and bewildered questions. How had a species barely a century into interstellar travel defeated civilizations with technologies thousands of years more advanced? As the rust bucket limped into its docking bay, systems failing and engines permanently damaged from the coolant purge, Alina Reyes and her crew were met not with the derision they had faced upon arrival, but with a new and unfamiliar response from the galaxy's elite races: respect. Commander Azarin approached Alina as she disembarked, his expression a complex mixture of frustration and reluctant admiration. Your victory defies explanation, human. Your technology is primitive, your methods unorthodox to the point of recklessness. Alina met his gaze steadily. Perhaps that's why we won, Commander. You and the others, you've been racing for centuries, perfecting technologies that already work. You've forgotten what it's like to need to innovate, to solve problems with limited resources. You suggest we've become complacent. Azarin's voice carried a hint of indignation. I suggest that sometimes limitations breed creativity. Humanity hasn't had the luxury of millennia to develop perfect solutions. We've had to make do with what we have, and in doing so, we've learned to see possibilities where others see only constraints. The victory of the Rust Bucket in the 573rd Galactic Grand Prix would later be remembered as a pivotal moment in human-alien relations. What began as an amusing novelty, primitive humans attempting to compete with advanced civilizations, ended as a sobering reminder that technological superiority wasn't the only path to success. In the days that followed, the Rust Bucket became the most examined ship in the spaceport. Engineers and scientists from dozens of worlds inspected its makeshift systems and jury-rigged modifications, marveling at solutions so simple they had been overlooked by civilizations focused on ever-increasing complexity. They'll try to copy our methods next year, Marcus observed as they prepared the ship for the journey back to Earth. They'll incorporate our primitive approaches into their advanced systems. Alina nodded, watching as a group of Merovian engineers studied the remains of Nikolai's quantum bubble generator with fascination. And we'll have to come up with something new. That's the beauty of it, Marcus. Innovation never ends. As the crew of the Rust Bucket departed Andromeda Spaceport, returning to Earth as unexpected champions, they carried with them more than just the prestigious Grand Prix trophy. They carried a message to humanity and to the galaxy at large, that sometimes the greatest advancement comes not from having the most sophisticated technology, but from having the imagination to use what you have in ways no one else has considered. In the vast tapestry of galactic civilization, humanity had secured its first thread, not through overwhelming force or technological superiority, but through the uniquely human traits of adaptability, creativity, and the stubborn refusal to accept limitations as final. And across the stars, ancient races began to watch this young species with new interest, wondering what other surprises humans might bring to a universe that had thought itself beyond astonishment.